Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Gaia and Patti.
Real, heart-centered, and fun conversations about life.
In this soulful conversation, Gaia and Patti will discuss creating healthy boundaries.
Hi everyone, I am Gaia Shrangella, the owner of The Awakening of Gaia. I am a life transformation mentor and specialist in mind-body approaches and expert in energy healing. I help people to transform their life, to empower them, to overcome physical pain, mental exhaustion, and transform emotional energetic blocks, getting back a more joyous and fulfilling life. Especially, I am passionate to teach other women how to get more in touch with their own intuition and wisdom. Also, if they want to discover a deeper and more spiritual dimension of life, and they are not sure how to do and where to start.
And hi, I'm Patti Osveric from Coaching for Inspiration with Patti. I'm a leadership and work-life balance coach, Reiki master, podcaster, and blogger. And I'm committed to helping managers and supervisors and others to become better leaders and live a more purposeful, balanced life outside of work. Hi, Gaia. How's it going today?
Hi, Patti. Very well. Thank you. How's it going for you?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Ready to spread our wisdom about boundaries?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure, like everyone else that's listening to this, we've all struggled throughout our life with boundaries with either a coworker, a teacher. My hair's kind of sticking up there. A teacher, maybe a family member, a spouse, all kinds of different people in our lives.
Yeah.
And communicating what's acceptable,
Right.
what's not acceptable.
Right. Yeah. And what I found, is that everyone at certain point in their life have struggled with this, but sometimes we don't recognize this lack of boundaries, just because if you ask to 10 people, they may say 10 different things about their take on boundaries, and also they may see that from a different angle. Some people may tell you, okay, I may have some problems with emotional boundaries. Some other people are like, oh, I just want to protect my energy. So there are different type of boundaries that people can recognize. There are the emotional, they are the physical, they are the energetic. And I think it's important for each one of us at certain point just to reflect about what's really important to us and where we find that maybe we are lacking some skills.
Oh, I definitely agree. Throughout my life, I know that I struggled a lot with boundaries with people because I didn't know how to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I did struggle with that. And as time went on throughout my life, I started being able to realize there are a lot of things that I didn't want to do that I was doing because I was people pleasing. So,
Right.
guys, did you experience that as well?
Oh
Or
yeah, a lot. And just in the last few years, I think it also comes a little bit with wisdom and experience in life. But it's also because maybe I started to question myself more and get to know myself more and wanted to grow and develop more. But other than that, especially in the last few years, but other than that, for many years, I've been like lacking those type of boundaries. And again, I didn't know what boundaries were at the time. For me was just like, was people pleasing, and was like, yeah, okay, this is maybe okay for me, and I'll try to endure maybe some behaviors from other people that really doesn't jive with me, because you want to be a good girl, a good lady. And especially for women, I think it's really a struggle, because we maybe associate the lack of boundaries with the fact that we want to always be kind. But then I started to recognize the fact that some stuff didn't sit really well with me, and I started to vocalize more and more my concern or the way I was feeling. I think it's also important, one of the ways that we can recognize we don't have boundaries is the way things, relationships, or things, behavior from other people really sit with us, and recognize how we feel in our body, how, asking how I'm really treated by this person, right? Does it really feel good to me, or it's just acceptable because people think it's acceptable? What do you think?
Yeah, I know for me, a lot of it was I didn't want to upset people.
Yeah.
I took on more than I should have because I was the one that would say yes. And I know when I was younger, I was a young mother and I was working and I had so much stuff going on, but I would keep saying yes to stuff, which wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my family, and I was a workaholic. And I think that was part of not having healthy boundaries. I would say yes to pretty much,
Yeah.
you know.
But then I'm curious to, how did you feel about that? Did it really feel okay to you?
No, it didn't. It
Right.
felt like I was giving up what I enjoyed, or I was giving up time with my family. And as time went on, I realized I'm not enjoying some of these things that I'm saying yes to.
Yeah.
And why am I doing this? Because I don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings,
Yeah.
or I want to please my boss in my
That's
work.
a big one on work. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually, I realized I wasn't fulfilling any of my needs. I was fulfilling everybody else's needs, which was I was exhausted. I was internalizing a lot of stuff. I actually, in my 30s, I actually had an ulcer and was hospitalized for 5 days because of worry, all of those things that was building up for me by not having those healthy boundaries.
Yeah, that's true. We internalize a lot of stuff, and when it's like that, and we don't really follow our own, wisdom and what it's right for us and our own needs, then really stuff can show up in the body, like especially in the stomach, really. It's just the third chakra, so it's like the willpower. Yeah, I can recognize a lot of what you said in myself as well, especially about work. Trying to really please others, please your boss, and that's a big one for a lot of people, actually. So yeah, but then you feel that something is not right, and you don't have time then to enjoy really the rest of your days. So, and it's not fair also for people, for yourself, and for people in your life. And the same goes for relationships. For example, for those women that really cannot say no to some behaviors from some men, but it's also because they don't want maybe to risk the fact that they may lose these people in their lives. So yeah, it's just, and again, one of the reasons, it's just because we want to please others. Yeah. Absolutely. So, what do you think, Patti, is actually, in which way we can actually identify, not only identify, but also define boundaries for people? Sometimes people cannot really put a finger on what's really what having boundary means.
So boundaries are something that may be acceptable to me, but may not be acceptable to somebody else. And being able to communicate the situation and what you want from the relationship, how you want to be treated, how you want to be talked to, how you want to work together in harmony, and communicating it in a way that each person can agree, yes, this is how we're going to treat each other, or this is how we're going to communicate to each other, and saying it in a kind way. When you do this, when you speak to me in this way, this is how it makes me feel.
Right.
And having a dialogue between each other, and saying, this is how I'm feeling. How can we work for both of us to have a good communication and a good relationship? So let me give an example. I'm at home cooking dinner and you're out at the bar. Okay. And you come home late and the dinner is cold. How can we work together for us to sit down and have dinner together and it still be warm, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't mind you going to the bar as long as you communicate it to me and tell me what time you're going to be home or something like that.
Right.
Then you're communicating. Or you're going to the bar every night after work. Is it possible that maybe you can stop by the bar once a week or twice a week? And what days will you be doing that? And what time will you be coming home? That way you're compromising, right?
Yeah.
And that person is getting their needs met and you're getting your needs met. That's just an example.
No, I love your example. Yeah. Yeah.
If they respect you and love you, they will compromise with you and say, oh yeah, you're right. How about on Wednesday and Friday, I'll stop and have a drink after work with my coworkers and I'll be home by 7. And if that works for you and that's okay with your boundaries, then you have an agreement and you've communicated your needs and wants with that person. Now, say you're at work and somebody, it's 5 o'clock and you leave at 5 o'clock and they come into your office and they want to chit chat. You need to communicate boundaries and say to them, I'm sorry, I need to go home. Can we discuss this tomorrow?
Yeah.
And actually start packing up your desk and
right.
leave.
Sometimes we may don't want to upset the other person, but
yeah, I need to
necessary.
get home. Yeah, I need to get home. Or I have somewhere I need to be, and if you communicate that, also you can communicate with people. I leave at 5 o'clock. Why don't we schedule it for tomorrow at 9 or something like that? And keep enforcing that. Because if you stay, you're letting them
cover you.
Cross that boundary.
Yes.
So just keep saying it and putting it into practice and actually packing up and leaving. Because, some people don't realize that they're crossing that boundary and you need to get out. You need to go home. You need to have time with your family, especially if you have young children or or a spouse or your pet. You need to get home to them and spend time with them, right?
Yeah. No, I love your examples. So yeah, I totally agree. So I think it's important to say, especially for those people that cannot really recognize, put a finger on the boundaries, that it's really putting, some rules in place which are reinforcing your values, your priorities, what is important really to you. Because to me, it's also a way for taking care of yourself, right? Rather than saying yes to everybody, it's just to taking care of you and loving yourself. And I love the examples that you have shared with us, because it's not only it's something that you can enforce at work, and then it's important really to stick to your boundaries. Sometimes people may put boundaries in place, but then, like in the example of the packing, then they can really start, letting those boundaries be really permeable and then go back in the older patterns And so you are not reinforcing any boundaries over there. So you really need to reiterate, especially with people that do not have a sense of crossing your own boundaries. You need really to enforce them. But it's important also for just personal relationships, the example that you gave about communicating. So one thing that it's important, it's really verbalizing when something is not okay, and in which way you can agree with the other person in order for you to get on board with to be on the same page. And especially if you are in relationships, I believe that really communicating the way you feel and really the emotions, the way they make you feel or the situation makes you feel, it's really important. Because if a person really wants to take care of you, then may realize that they are doing something that it's hurting you. And another important thing is sometimes we can adjust our priorities. In the example that you said, like compromising, it's basically adjusting, really trying to see what's really, really important. So it's really a hard boundaries, something that it's really important for your values and cannot be crossed. And some other boundaries that may be, as people say, soft. So can be really adjust, or there may be a negotiation around there. So sometimes I found that at work, maybe having hard boundaries works a little bit better, especially for those people that are not realizing that are crossing your boundaries. But sometimes, we can also negotiate. Okay, today I will stay longer at work just because I need to finish for a project, but it's just today. So it's basically being clear also with yourself, what can be accomplished, what can be really, where we need really to draw the line, basically. I think it's important. Yeah,
I definitely agree.
and so we also mentioned why sometimes people lack boundaries. It's just to please others, but there may be many other reasons. Maybe they have internalized some beliefs, and they always behaved in a certain way, so they really cannot conceive a different way. For example, for those women, especially in the older years, but I believe also today we can find some examples that they always say yes to people really that want them to take care of the family. So there are women that really do not have many opportunities to take care for themselves, but for them it's normal because they've always been done like that in their families. So sometimes it's really realizing that something, it doesn't feel quite fulfilling totally for us, and then starting to see if we can change even our views on a certain pattern or a certain behavior. It doesn't mean that because things have always been done in a certain way, it's always been right. So
I love that. And another way to talk about boundaries is to sit down and think, am I happy doing this? It could be, a volunteer position. It could be something that you do for your family, say housework, and you're doing all the housework, but everybody else in the family is not helping out. And it's starting to bother you. So you sit down with the family and you talk about, I'd like to delegate because I need help. Things aren't getting done around the house. Who would like to share in folding laundry? Who would like to share in putting dishes in the dishwasher and starting the dishwasher? Who would like to help with yard work? Can we all work together to make our house look nice and be clean? And can you help me with this? And what would you like to do to help? And get a commitment. And because you can become resentful and to the people in your household, and that's not creating a healthy environment because you're mad and hostile and all of
Yeah,
things because you're tired and you're trying to do it all.
yeah,
So
and
just sitting down as a family and discussing
yeah,
it in a calm, considerate way and not pointing fingers.
yeah. And I think it's important because sometimes we may get resentful, but we never expressed what we want.
Yeah.
So people cannot really read our mind. And again, if it has always been done in a certain way, other people expect that from you to
Mhm.
behave always in a certain way. So you cannot be resentful if you really don't express what what you feel, really, which are your priorities and your needs. So I think yeah, it's really important. People don't read our minds. So
And some people feel obligated that they've been doing something for a long time and that, say, a volunteer position or a hobby, say you've been going and playing, I'm just going to say tennis,
yeah,
and you realize your body's aching and you don't enjoy it, and
that's a good one.
and you're afraid you're going to let down people that you play tennis with, right? But it's really not filling your cup, it's actually depleting you. That's when you need to say to yourself, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not happy, it's just like another chore for me to do. Is it time for me to let this go? And then make that decision. This isn't, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's okay. It's okay to say, I don't want to do this anymore, and to let the people know that you've decided that you won't be participating anymore. It's okay. You don't have to do it. And I think people get into, I have to go, you know, I'm going to let
Yeah,
somebody down. But when it's no longer joyful, it's time to let it go and let
yeah,
somebody else take your place that's going to enjoy it and love it, right?
that's true. Yeah, so it sounds almost like and you're perfectly right. Before having the conversation with other people, we actually need to have a conversation with ourselves
Yes.
and really, you know, get our mind clear about what we want and then communicate to others. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we do things that we feel obligated for
Yeah.
that we really don't enjoy. And is that really what we should be doing? And I don't like the word should, but is it helping us with our self-care? Is it helping us in our life? Why are we doing it? I guess asking that question, why am I doing this?
That's a good one. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The motivation behind, yeah, what we do. Yeah.
Is it benefiting me? Is it helping me hit my goals? Is it helping me self-improve? Why am I doing this if I don't enjoy it?
Hmm. That's great. Yeah. Anything else we want to add? I think it was pretty, comprehensive about our views. Yeah.
Yes. And we would love to hear about how you create healthy boundaries in your life and share with us and our followers. And we want
Yes.
to thank you so much for watching. And please leave a comment and like and follow Gaia and Patti. And the question to you viewers is, what are some successful boundaries you have created for yourself?
Thank you for watching. Bye bye.